Imagine this. It's a quiet evening in 1977 in a modest suburban home on the outskirts of London. A single mother tucks her kids into bed, flips off the light, and heads downstairs for a cup of tea. But then, without warning, a heavy chest of drawers slides across the room on its own, crashing into the wall. The kids scream, and as she rushes back up, she hears a deep, guttural voice coming from her 11-year-old daughter's mouth. A voice that isn't hers, growling words that chill the blood. This isn't a movie scene. This is the Enfield Poltergeist, one of the most documented hauntings in history. Stick around, because what happened next will make you question everything you think you know about the supernatural. Let's rewind a bit to set the stage. The Hodgson family lived in a council house at 284 Green Street in Enfield, North London. Peggy Hodgson was a hard-working widow in her mid-40s, raising 4 kids on her own after her husband left. Margaret, 13, Janet, 11, Johnny, 10, and Billy, 7. They were your average working-class family. Nothing fancy, just trying to get by. Peggy worked odd jobs, the kids went to school, and life was pretty ordinary. That is, until late August of that year, when things started to go weird. It began innocently enough, like something out of a bad dream you'd shake off in the morning. One night, Janet and Johnny were in their shared bedroom when they heard knocking sounds coming from the walls. At first, they thought it was the neighbors, or maybe just the house settling. But the knocks grew louder, more insistent, like someone or something was trying to get their attention. Peggy dismissed it as kids being kids, but then the toys started moving. A Lego brick flew across the room, hitting the wall with a sharp crack. Then a marble rolled out from under the bed, defying gravity as it zipped up into the air before dropping. Peggy tried to stay calm. She was a practical woman, not one for ghost stories. But the next evening, it escalated. The family was gathered in the living room when a chair lifted off the ground and slid several feet across the floor. No one was touching it. The kids froze, eyes wide. Peggy grabbed them and ran next door to the neighbors, Vic and Peggy Nottingham. "Something's happening in our house," she gasped. "Furniture's moving on its own."
The Nottinghams, being good neighbors, came over to check it out. Vic, a burly builder, searched the place top to bottom. No wires, no tricks, nothing. But as they stood there talking, a loud bang echoed from upstairs. They rushed up to find the chest of drawers in the kids' room had shifted 4 feet from the wall. Vic tried to push it back, but it wouldn't budge, like it was glued to the floor. Then, as if mocking him, it slid back into place, all by itself. "I ain't never seen nothing like that," Vic later told reporters. That night, the police were called. 2 officers arrived, Constable Carolyn Heaps and her partner. They were skeptical. Poltergeists? Come on! But while taking statements, Heaps saw it with her own eyes. A chair in the living room wobbled, then slid across the floor unaided. In her official report, she wrote, "I then saw the chair slide across the floor. It came to rest after traveling about 4 feet. No explanation." The cops left, advising Peggy to contact someone who dealt with the paranormal. Word spread fast in the tight-knit neighborhood, and soon external witnesses were piling up. Enter the Daily Mirror, a big UK newspaper at the time. Reporter Douglas Bentz and photographer Graham Morris got wind of the story and showed up the next day. They were there to debunk it, figuring it was a hoax for attention. But as they interviewed Peggy, a box of toys launched itself from the corner, smacking Graham in the face hard enough to leave a bruise. It felt like I'd been hit by a brick, he said. He snapped photos frantically as furniture levitated and objects flew. One iconic shot captured a pillow hovering mid-air. The Mirror ran the story, and suddenly the Hodgson house was ground zero for one of the UK's biggest paranormal investigations. That's when the Society for Psychical Research got involved. Maurice Grosse, an inventor and SPR member grieving his own daughter's recent death in a motorcycle accident, took the lead. He was joined later by Guy Ryan Playfair, a writer and paranormal expert. They set up camp in the house for over a year, documenting everything with tape recorders, cameras, and notebooks. What they witnessed would fill volumes. The activity ramped up dramatically. Beds shook violently, waking the family in the night. Drawers opened and slammed shut, but it centered on Janet, the 11-year-old. She'd be lifted out of bed and thrown across the room, landing in a heap. Photos show her mid-air, arms flailing, face twisted in terror. "It feels like someone's grabbing me," she'd cry. Then came the voices, deep, gravelly tones emanating from Janet, but not in her voice. It called itself Bill, claiming to be an old man who died in the house years ago from a brain hemorrhage in an armchair downstairs. "I went blind and had a hemorrhage, and I fell asleep and died in the chair in the corner downstairs," the voice growled through Janet's lips, her eyes rolling back. Grosse and Playfair recorded over 200 hours of audio. The voice would curse, make jokes, and even answer questions about things Janet couldn't possibly know. Skeptics said she was ventriloquizing, but doctors examined her. Her vocal cords weren't moving right for that. Plus, the voice spoke when her mouth was full of water or taped shut in tests. It was eerie, unnatural. And it wasn't just inside the house anymore. Neighbors heard the knocks through the walls. One even saw Janet levitating through a window from outside. As months dragged on, the family's life unraveled. Peggy couldn't sleep, chain-smoking through the nights. The kids missed school, tormented by the entity. Johnny and Billy were scared stiff, but Margaret and Janet bore the brunt. Janet was hospitalized briefly after being thrown around, bruises covering her body. Investigators set up infrared cameras and caught apparitions, shadowy figures in doorways. One night, a curtain wrapped around Janet's neck, nearly strangling her. Playfair had to cut her free. But doubts crept in. Some photos showed Janet bouncing on the bed mid-jump, which skeptics called faked. The girls admitted to pranking a few times, bending spoons or hiding things to test the investigators. "We got bored," Janet later said. But Playfair insisted only 2% might be hoaxed. The rest was inexplicable. The voice knew details about Bill Wilkins, a real former resident who died exactly as described, verified by his son, who confirmed the armchair's story. The haunting peaked in 1978. Janet was possessed more frequently, the voice threatening violence. "I'll burn the house down," it snarled. Fires did start spontaneously. A box of matches ignited on its own. Finally, after 18 months, the activity faded when the family got help from a medium who crossed over the spirits. Life slowly normalized, but the scars remained. Peggy passed away in 2003, still swearing it was real. Janet, now in her 50s, stands by her story, though she wishes it never happened. So what can we learn from the Enfield Poltergeist? It reminds us that the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is thinner than we think. Whether you believe it was a genuine haunting, a poltergeist fueled by adolescent energy, or a mix of hoax and hysteria, it shows how fear can upend lives and how we crave explanations for the unknown. Maybe it's a cautionary tale. Don't dismiss the strange too quickly, but always seek the truth. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe for more true tales of the unexplained. Drop a comment below. Do you think the Enfield case was real or a clever fake? Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. We've got more hauntings, mysteries, and urban legends coming your way. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep an open mind. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.